Hello everybody, welcome back. Tonight I'm Dana Durnford. You can call in at 709-589-4406. 4406. We're in Canada. All lines are currently open. So, this is also a comedy show, and the material we got to work with is a little rough sometimes, but it's a comedy show. And I was quite shocked to discover that there was only CNN was doing the presidential debate with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And the two moderators were Jewish moderators, which is a little biased, I think, right? But when I watched it, I couldn't understand a word Joe was saying for the most part. It was like, ooh. And his voice was so weird, they were trying to blame it on the cold or something. It's absurd. And I don't know what to make of it because there was nothing substance in the whole bloody thing, was it? They purposely stayed away from everything. And then only CNN was allowed to ask questions. There was nobody in the there was no audience. And so we got a poll tonight to try to make some sense of this. Was the United States of America debate with President Biden, as the current president of the United States of America, and Donald Trump, the ex-president of the United States, with Jewish moderators, Joe Trapper and Dana Bash, a scary nightmare? That was a scary nightmare. I'm not saying it's just because they were Jewish or something. I'm trying to be mean. We'll get to that story. It's an incredible story. That's the weekend. At the end of the show, I'll show you why I went from there to there the weekend. You don't probably want to know, but it's all good now. We got everything sorted out. So let's talk about Fukushima for a minute. We got a big news cycle to get to. Incredible, amazing. Hard cases is what these people are. So I want you to look at these two buildings and imagine that they're your properties. The left is known as Medusa, which is reactor 3 at Fukushima. It was a plutonium mixed oxide nuclear meltdown. And to your right is reactor 4, which they've never acknowledged. It was damaged. That has never been acknowledged. So last year, the International Atomic Energy Agency, we got a picture of Raphael Grossi's father, I guess that is. And so the industry will roll out these scientists. They look like well-adjusted, academics from responsible families. And then the media is the same thing, where the media actually came out on April 6, 2011, less than a month after the buildings blew up, and said that they fixed the leaks in the buildings with a mixture of sawdust and newspaper and glue. Apparently, scientists have cooked up all kinds of stuff. Newly Fukushima footage from 3/11 can no longer force my employees to continue. May receive high doses of radiation. That was the plant chief of Fukushima. And this was retrospectively looking back. So when you look at the actual original first month or so, this is what you're going to see. And you can see nobody's working there. This is, you can see facets of a cement truck that was rigged up to pump water on an empty building to give you make you complacent to think that the fuel was still there. That's reactor 4, of course. And then over here was the Medusa reactor 3. And sure, within 2 years, this is what they actually looked like. They gutted them. There was nothing left, right? But there was that illusion. And Unit 2 completely liquefied. And they've never seen that 100% liquefaction of a uranium core. But the fuel pools were also gone at these buildings. They had around 4 to 5 reactor cores in each fuel pool. There's 2 at the top of each of the buildings. And just bear with me, because this is a comedy show, and we'll get to the comedy. The comedy is coming, and it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be hilarious. Trust me. Have some faith in Dana. Don't let me down yet. We've never seen this before in the history of nuclear power. So you got reactor 4 is gone, reactor 3 is gone, reactor 2 is gone. The fuel pools are all gone. Chernobyl never had any fuel pools, and it was mostly graphite. These are pure uranium, pure plutonium. For the entire nuclear industry is dumping it into the ocean and the rivers and lakes like the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Ontario, Lake Huron are all just incredibly radioactive because of the nuclear industry. And of course, water is our most precious resource, and those particular lakes are the biggest freshwater reserves on the entire planet. So reactor 3 is the highly lethal mixed uranium-plutonium oxide. This has already gone through a chain reaction. It's going through a chain reaction again. This is going to be the last to attempt the fuel removal. So currently everybody in the nuclear industry, when they wake up in the morning, they have to go worship the 1-ton bags. There's 30 million of them at Fukushima. Japan reported 5 persons received a lethal radiation dose in Fukushima in the first 5 days. 1 a day, you get a lethal dose. The Fisher storage horses, nobody ever got injured. Not even a fly. Not even the hairs on the balls of a fly got hurt. That's the fact. That's the truth. That's the nuclear industry. And I'm not sure how many bananas that's equal to, but apparently it's a lot, like 1 billion or something, before you can get hurt. So unless you're going to be around 1 billion bananas and they fall on you, there's no way you're going to get hurt. So every time I put a request into the artificial intelligence and says, give me a picture of the nuclear industry, this is what they give me. I got thousands of them. I don't know what to make of it. We're shipping 1-ton bags of radiation. It's just the damnedest thing I've ever saw. I got to do a little tweaking. AP journalists feel a massive explosion at the number 3 nuclear plant from 25 miles away. So if you live 25 miles away from your 19-story hotel, for instance, and you go out to get your morning paper and you feel this explosion, look up and you can see your building doing that. Would you pick up your paper, go in and drink your morning cup of tea and tell the secretary to show up late today? Would you acknowledge that she might not need to show up ever at that particular site? I'm just not trying to be an arsehole, just trying to be normal, just trying to be realistic. The second guy to your left over there, that's actually me. That was this morning. It's true, too. Worship 1-ton bags for radiation. I'm ashamed of myself. How do you not when there's so many people? The nuclear industry worldwide does it. It's only weird dry. I was just walking down the road and all of a sudden, where's the 1-ton bags? I got to go to the 1-ton bags. Yeah, and true, I sleep in a 1-ton bag. It's a second-hand bag from TEPCO. They said it was okay. It's cozy, so leave me alone. International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi. Rafael Grossi was in June 2nd, 2011, where the International Atomic Energy admitted there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation, that the standards are based on natural stuff, not man-made. So that makes sense. Rafael Grossi, the current Secretary General, or whatever you want to call him, of this corporation. I was spotted. He was on his lunch hours out sniffing bicycle seats again. And apparently he'd been doing it since he was a kid, and it's considered okay. The doctor says it's okay. It's just he can't help himself, so leave him alone. Japan's chief cabinet secretary laughed when told about the children's radiation concerns. The lawmaker says it's no laughing matter, but the lawmaker didn't know what the chief cabinet secretary did. And this is what he does with his kids every morning. You worship 1 ton bags of radiation. It's okay, man. Death by radiation is the norm now. Everybody gets to experience it at least once. Unless you're Buddha, I suppose. You get to experience it a few more times. Fukushima's superhero tells kids the arch enemy's bad reputation from the nuclear crisis. And he fights against fools and sloppy people. So they did pick up 30 million 1 ton bags of radiation in just a small section of Japan's Fukushima prefecture, which is one of the biggest prefectures in the country. Should we really call Japan a country? They don't act like a country. Hang on. Woo! That is hot as shit. I got one of those, I had one of those hot plate for your coffee given to me. And the night I plugged it in, I was like, can I get a half an hour on that and still be drinkable? That'll be the question. We'll know soon enough, won't we? Right now it's piping hot, which kind of shocked me, really. But doesn't everybody do this every morning? Isn't this normal? Like in the nuclear industry. Because, you know, babies born this year may be working at Fukushima Daiichi one day. Well, not maybe, they will be. For at least the next 1,000 years, be working because of Fukushima. Yeah, that's the new worshiper. Everybody in Japan is, the government says you have to have one of these shrines at your house to worship the 1 ton bags. They are your friend. They bring substance. Right? Yeah? They're everywhere, worldwide. Is Iodine-131 killing babies in Philadelphia? Huh. Gee, I never thought about that. The deaths are up 48% since Fukushima radiation fallout spike. It's okay, though, because it's Japanese, right? Not every kid is going to die. There's endless diseases and illnesses. That's always fun. I tell you, it was tough material to work with. That's my backyard right there, actually. It's actually not a mess. It looks just like that there. Nice and tidy, 1 ton bag. I go to everyone, bless you, TEPCO. Bless you, you're such a wonderful gift to all the emaciated whales. Idaho TV data showed a large spike in deaths, particularly infant deaths. This is America, I think. South of Canada, anyway. In the 14 weeks following the Fukushima meltdown. Yeah, there's 22,000 Americans died of heart attacks. And authors, there was 2 of them, Joseph Magano, and the other lady, I can't remember her name at the moment, but she died last year, I think it was. She was a real friend of this planet. This was the nuclear industry celebrating her death, by the way. 1 ton bags. See, it makes more sense when you see the truth like that. That makes more sense. It starts adding up because it can't be just everybody randomly being evil. The industry is evil, right? Radioactive cesium is causing holes in the hearts of children. Scumbag Kevin Camp. Kevin Camp says the Fukushima fuel pools are still there. Somewhere. They're invisible. Right, Kevin? Oh, yes. The steampunk's got to be out there. So if you just inhale one single radioactive hot particle, it can cause a cancer. It does that because it sequesters in your muscles, your organs, your bones, your skeleton, for instance. It's pulsing energy at the speed of light every second, so your entire body, because you can't fix it, your entire body will send white blood cells there and attack it. And every time it pulses, almost at the speed of light, every second or so, it destroys chromosomes, DNA cells, and stuff like this. And your body has to repair that every second, plus attack the source every second. And so in this case, it could take 50 years for it to catch up. But it will catch up. It'll eventually build a tumor around that isotope that's in your body because that's a foreign object. But you have less oxygen molecules, less nutrition and oxygen in your red blood cells, because for every white blood cell, you have to displace a red blood cell, right? 40% of Fukushima visitors showed internal exposures to radiation. 40%. 40%. So it's not just external, it's internal. The Fukushima crisis comes to the United States, Professor. The new and improved version of the original atomic plague is spreading, and that the truth is so incomprehensible, it's easier to pretend it didn't exist. Yeah, that thing, that's actually working. I'm definitely impressed. You need the tea really to cut your throat, because when you're talking for so long. Japanese physician demand answers. 90% of the urine samples contaminated with cesium in a city 200 kilometers from the nuclear meltdowns. But of course it is. 3,000 microsieverts of internal radiation for residents in a town 40 kilometers from the Fukushima plant. So any food that's grown in Japan, not just Fukushima, is, why take the chance? Because the adverse effects of consuming that stuff are catastrophic. Xenon, and the Americans had something, one study was 450,000 times above detection levels, persisting for weeks. Bombards the humans with powerful X-rays, turns into cesium. And xenon from Fukushima is the most ever, 2.5 times Chernobyl. And this was the Xenon-133, for instance, plume up there in the corner. These catastrophic numbers. And so even whales, there's nothing immune to radioactive fallout, because you break the food chain, right? We don't need a food chain. The birds and the insects, everything else might, but we don't need it. We got GMO. In fact, they were saying, they done a study that on GMO corn, Mothers for America, I think it was, commissioned a study on a GMO corn on the cob. And so they looked at the calcium, the magnesium, the potassium, the iron, the carbon, everything, the natural elements, and they were basically decreased by 6,000 to 1. And so you would have to eat 425 GMO corn on the cob to get the same nutrition you would get from a single organic corn on the cob. You basically had to fill up the back seat of your car, the floor in the back seat, with 425 large, because GMO corn on the cob is huge, right? It looks great deal, but it's basically, the conclusion was, you actually got, because I'd done that study myself, you would get more nutrition licking a stamp than you would eating 425 GMO corn on the cob, because it would screw up your system so much also, you couldn't absorb any nutrition that might have been there. Children playing on dirt with huge amounts of radioactivity. These are stories you never hear in Canada, United States, for instance, or Britain. Cesium levels so high prevented identification of other isotopes. Well, cesium pulses 600 feet every second, so it drowns out a lot of different isotopes that you definitely need to be concerned about. And so this is one of the tricks that they've used for a very long time to manipulate the population. So the 30 million one-ton bags, there was over 150,000 sites, so we're trying to create 149,000 pictures, because we got around 1,000 real pictures, right? But we're trying to imagine what 150,000 sites of one-ton bags looks like, with a total of over 30 million one-ton bags. But you got to realize we're not including the fact they can't get rid of the sewage. It's dehydrated, so they're releasing huge amounts of radiation back into the ecosystem that way. But the solids left over after dehydrate sewage can't be recirculated because it's too radioactive. Insane numbers. And they only acknowledge cesium anyways. You can't get rid of the ash from the incinerators across the country because it's so radioactive. One of the reasons could be they're grinding up the radioactive material in Fukushima Prefecture and surrounding prefectures and shipping it to other prefectures to burn in the local community incinerators. I know that sounds like not plausible, but it actually is real. And then the sediment from the water filtration facilities so radioactive they can't get rid of it. So the water filtration facilities for the communities, and we know one area was 50,000 one-ton bags in just 1 year of sediment from water filtration was so radioactive you couldn't get rid of. And because the atoms of the anthropogenic man-made atoms are the same size as every other atom, then you're not getting very much of it sequestered, right? Most of it got through the water filtration system is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have the ability to filter out anthropogenic ionizing man-made terribly harmful radiation, heartbreaking. And how many bee colonies and ants nests and pollinators and stuff like that have filtration systems to filter their intakes? Oh, I don't think any of them do when you really think about it. And so what I decided to do is I'm going to just eat only Japanese food, and when I turn into the Hulk or Spider-Man, I'm not sure which one. You know, it's like, no, you don't get to pick which one you turn into. But if you eat a lot of radiation, you're going to be Spider-Man or the Hulk. And we're going to get them back. Then I can hold them accountable, see? After I morph into Spider-Man or the Hulk. That's how I understand it. So I embraced that, and I'm looking forward. Cesium-137 immediately damages the heart muscle. So does Spider-Man have a bad heart? Did anybody see an episode of the Hulk with a bad heart? Because I don't think that's true, because otherwise Spider-Man would have a bad heart, right? When radioactive cesium enters the body, 75% lodges in muscle tissue, including the heart. That's okay. I can get another heart. Right? There's a few Palestinians left out there. We can get them organs on the black market, I'm pretty sure, from what I heard. Israel can't use all of them. After Fukushima, fallout was suspended near Earth's surface without settling down. Is that a poor joke? Is that even a joke? I don't know. I think that was sarcasm. I don't think that qualified as a joke, Dana. I'll look it up. Don't worry about it. If I was wrong, I'll apologize tomorrow night, okay? You don't like it, you can call in 709-589-406. See how that works for you. And if you think that I'm not being honest about the million one-ton bag, go down and mark on every one of these one-ton bags of radiation that Dana is wrong. Go down and tell all the whales how wonderful nuclear is. Do that one. How about doing that? Tell the academics to produce these radioactive fallout studies. That is like a banana. This is just the first radioactive wave. Fukushima was pouring into the ocean 2014. Unstoppable. Not for years and years, but unstoppable. It's gotten China syndrome, some of it. The rest of it was expelled directly into the ocean. They actually cemented the whole front of Fukushima ocean side. They poured cement over all of it. Marine expert, no sun's going to stop anytime soon. Could be worse than Chernobyl. This is 2014. What do you mean worse than Chernobyl? There's nothing left. The buildings went, ah. You like that? I can do that again. Not right on perfect or anything, but I can do pretty close. How come all nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms? Why would you do that? Because you can't contain the radiation. The fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation. Joke's on you, right? You get it? Nearly 5,000 nuke plant workers suffered internal radiation exposure, but they had paper suits on. So that couldn't happen. Somebody should call up the insurance companies and tell them they had paper suits on. Right? I know what some of you out there haters are saying, paper suit can't protect you. You're wrong. TEPCO said it can. And that they burnt 7,000 paper suits every day. I like that. That shows fortitude. Is that not fortitude? I think that's the right thing to do. I think that's a responsible thing to do. Burn it in the incinerators. Yeah, they're radioactive. Yeah, you can't kill radioactive. You can't destroy it in the incinerators. But the radiation shouldn't be allowed just to kill one person. It should be able to recycle it back into the ecosystem, kill birds and insects too. They got feelings too. Radioactive fallout particles are humans too, you know. They're non-binary humans. So they burn 7,000 paper suits a day for 365 days a year. That's not bad. For 13 years. So let's see how many paper suits they burnt in the last 13 years. 33 million. See? Wait a second. 33 million? I would have had shares in that paper suit company if I hadn't known this. Man, I missed out on it. Nuclear industry, see, they would have been invested heavy in paper suits, right? We're making a killing over here. Or they'll make a killing wherever they go. Come on, give me a break, Larry. This is my first comedy show. I'll get better. I'll work hard. You don't know what I'm like. I'll work hard. I'll get better. You won't be laughing later. You'll be like, holy shit, he actually got better. So they're burning a little over almost 3 million paper suits a year, eh? That's crazy. So 33 million paper suits. Oh, I got to say that again. So 33 million paper suits, and then each paper suit is what, $160? Let's call it $7. Wow, that's skimming off the top right there. Tell you what, some smart ass skimming. They're not burning jack shit. There is no 7,000 people on those sites every day. Reactors blew up, remember? Duh. So I love these pictures where they absolutely unequivocally claimed that Fukushima never had nothing to do with it. Radiation must have came from the old plates from the 1920s or something, right? And the incredible articulated workers they have at Fukushima, the unskilled and destitute are the cleanup. Working at a nuclear meltdown is not called cleanup, it's called survival. There's the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society lined up. Every day there's at least 500 Fukushima 50s that go into that nuclear wasteland. Brings a tear to my eye every time I think about it. The mentally handicapped are more braver than nuclear scientists. I always knew that. I always said that, right? Even when I was a young kid. I was like 4 years old. I used to say the mentally handicapped are more braver than nuclear scientists. Mommy. Oogie oogie. They're often given secondhand paper suits. That's until TEPCO built another incinerator at Fukushima, right? Because they got two there now, and the other one's big, man. That's okay. They grind it up and ship it to other prefectures. Imagine burning 7,000 paper suits every day, because that's the official number. We covered it. We picked on them for a whole week in 2016, I think it was, just about the paper suits. I think they look pretty fancy in them paper suits. They're pretty stoic, eh? Because it's hard to tell they're homeless and the destitute and the victims of society in the paper suits. Japan Times, one of the biggest medias in Japan itself. Discharges of Fukushima nuclear material into the Pacific have effectively contaminated the sea, and the melted reactor cores will burn again. No, they will melt down again. They will continue emissions forever if you don't. Not if you don't, but there's no way to stop it. And nuclear is perpetual, right? It's a perpetual disease factory. All fuel pools are splitting atoms. What more do you need to know? That you need to stop this creature immediately. Oh, well, the plebes can't smell it or see it, Dana, so. TEPCO proposing some of it be dumped into the Pacific. You couldn't contain it. You can't put it in tanks and you can't filter it. It's atoms, right? Particles. You can't filter that out. Imagine water at 2 sieverts per liter. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose, for instance. So imagine after you're putting 1,000 gallons a minute, or let's say an hour, is closer to a minute, but let's say an hour. You're putting 1,000 gallons an hour through filters. And each liter is 2 sieverts. So it's 4,000 times 2, it's 16,000 sieverts. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. Even if you had incredible shielding, that's a lethal dose. It'll melt your organs, and your organs won't stop melting even if you run away or you're dragged away. It's a terrible way to die. Just ask all the whales, right? 250 million liters of Fukushima contaminated water flowed into the Pacific, an hour? Korea times now. South Korea. Who that administration admitted Fukushima happened, but the current administration, who, by the way, they got over 1 million people signed a petition to impeach Zhang, is it? He was formerly a prosecutor who denied Fukushima happened, by the way. Japan's cover-up could violate the international law and hit the global issue of environmental damage. So they'll put out pictures like this. Oh, whale died, but it wasn't Fukushima. And it's very angelic, right? But it's not. That's not true. It's not true. Here's one of the research expeditions. And we currently have both of them. I got a few problems with that one currently, but it's an old boat, right? You're gonna have problems. The little boat is up and running. That's actually what it looks like right now as we're talking. The little boat's still. It's got a dedicated trailer that has worked out fantastic. So you see that, but the reality of it, that wasn't real. Academics are not out there researching Fukushima. But we did. Me and a bunch of very brave people have launched pushback against the nuclear industry. And we are not here to play games. So over to your left is the species 2011. To your right, it's 2014. So these species, there was over 7,000 highly visible species in the tidal zones of the tropical rainforest, where there's 27,000 islands. And we will meander through them for 4 to 5 months each year for 6 years. And what we discovered is the species are exterminated. They're actually gone. We didn't like them anyway, so Now they're gone. We ain't going to get to like them if we change our mind. A Columbia medical professor inhaling just one hot particle can cause a cancer, or heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroids, adrenaline problems. And so imagine how harmful it is, because we're way up the food chain, how harmful it is to the species at the bottom of the food chain that are the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestering chain. They were completely exterminated. We know because we went out diligently and took our dead time, and we used to cover 20 kilometers one side of the anchorage and 20 kilometers the other side of the anchorage, and then move 40 kilometers and come back and cover 20 kilometers and cover another 20 kilometers and then move the whole operation another 40 kilometers. We've done this year after year. I was under siege the entire time. Radiation health specialists, children with 11 becquerels a kilogram of cesium, or plutonium, or americium, or neptunium, or strontium, or one of each even, they'll start to see heart problems. Now, you can put 200 million atoms, and an atom is, think of an atom as a becquerel that pulses, pulse of energy in a second is called a becquerel. And you need an atom to keep that rate going, so it pulses energy every second. Imagine 11 of them, atoms pulsing energy every second. But you can put 200 million of those same atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. So how would you detect 7 or 11? And then what if, it's so dangerous for children, which are still way up above these species, how quickly, how much, and so like the shellfish are filter feeders, and so they'll bioaccumulate radiation 125,000 times more than a fish will. And they were exterminated, by the way, and that the beaches are made up of these shells breaking down over millions of generations. But when you go to the beaches, there's no shellfish on the beaches, or shells, full-size shells, which I thought would be impossible because you have 27,000 islands full of these beautiful beaches that are made from these shells, but there is no shells on the beaches anymore. There's many species, right? There was like clams, you got little necks and manillas and razorback clams, you got gooey ducks and abalones, you got scallops, you got oysters, you got mussels, you got periwinkles and snails, you got, those little half round ones with the pointy heads on, I can't remember for some reason. You have this absurd diversity, 700 algae, kelps in the same tidal zones, and that amongst that was 5,500 well-known invertebrates without the backbones, like little shrimps. There was 78 species of starfish. They all came in multiple vibrant colors each species. It was the same application for around 74 sponges. There was 480 species of worms. There was 76 species of sea anemones. They all came in multiple vibrant colors. And because it was a tropical rainforest, you didn't have ice scrubbing the coastlines in the wintertime. It was like it all year long. And the species in the first 30 feet, which is the nursery, that's the nursery. And 27,000 islands. It would take you 71 years to visit one island a day. And so I would go to all the pinch points and do the research then. And I didn't see any academics out there studying the species a single time for 6 years. I was out there for 4 to 5 months by myself in sometimes the most horrific storms, the most horrific sustained conditions, the most hostile environments you can imagine. And then you had to go back year after year to repeat the research to see if the species recovered, right? Unfortunately, they didn't. And that's what we call it, a comedy show. And if you know nuclear, then it's funny, see? Then you get the irony of it, you understand? And you'll learn pretty quick around here, and then the comedy show will make sense. There's nothing like it either. There is no show like the nuclear show. I can tell you that much right now. There's no show like nuclear. 60 kilometers from the Fukushima plant, kids walk to school each day on roads contaminated with radioactivity of 70,000 atoms per square meter. Mother tells official, lick that soil. Lick it. Children lick the soil. Take the soil in your hands and lick it after being told it doesn't need to be removed from a Fukushima school. Women from Fukushima, it's as if they're in a gas chamber. The children are breathing radiation every moment. And the media's a little bit dishonest. Hope rises as power is restored at Fukushima plant. So this was the 22nd of March. Hope rises. And they show you that picture, that video there. That's Medusa. They're spraying water. And they would have died shortly after, those people. Japanese authorities have successfully reconnected all 6 reactors to the power supply at Fukushima damaged nuclear plant, experts said on Monday. I don't know where they connected the power to, though. I haven't figured that out. I've been studying it for 13 years, and I'm hoping to get a breakthrough one of these days. Can you figure out where they connected the power supply so everything is now safe at the fuel pool? Fuel poles were at the top of the building, by the way. That's pretty funny, isn't it? Can you see the tops of the buildings? If I gave you like a donkey's tail and put a blindfold on you, could you pin that donkey tail on the fuel pool of reactor 3 and 4? Simple question. Don't make it difficult. Well, we're 50 minutes, not 50 minutes in, I guess, but my tea's still hot. That was amazing. 43 minutes in, my tea's still hot. Woohoo! Makes it a lot better because you need something to cut the... cooling Fukushima possible. It wasn't just one story. After connection to the grid. This is France 24. That's the government of France. They wouldn't lie to you, would they? All 6 of the Fukushima crippled reactors. This is 10 days later, by the way. 11 days later. Were reconnected to the national grid on Tuesday. God bless the government. That's amazing. I didn't know they could do that. Connect. Like, how do you do that? I got no idea, but they wouldn't lie to us, right? Right? So they must be true. This is the tsunami running through the plant and 1,200 miles of the coastline. It took down all the telephone poles up to 10 kilometers inland. But somehow the stoic Japanese connected power to these reactors. I think nuclear scientists... I don't think anybody on the planet should be allowed to wake up in the morning and not have a monument to nuclear scientists. These are incredible people. Japanese source warns clothing retains radioactive contamination. Closets, wardrobes registered the highest levels. Well, that's a good excuse to get rid of all your clothing. That's okay. Nuclear industry is more important than your stupid clothing, okay? Get over it. Fukushima girls have 3 times more thyroid tumors over 15 millimeters than boys. Like their thyroids are about 2 by 3 centimeters, which means they're producing radioactive hormones, which is good for girls. We don't need normal everyday girls. We want mutated children, don't we? I'm jealous. Also, 79% more medium-sized tumors than boys. Because they're just greedy. They wanted more tumors. Show-offs, right? Never happy. You always got to have more. Don't be a chicken, the mayor tells the parents that's concerned about the children eating radioactive lunches in a nuclear wasteland. I think the mayor should be allowed to smack every one of them in the face to smarten them up. It's important that everybody eat the radiation so the ducks can be safe. Japanese mayor says students are gaining knowledge by eating radioactive food in school lunches. You damn tootin'. Well, not right away, right? But when they start going to the hospital because they got cancers and heart problem, liver problem, they're going to learn lots. And they might grow up and be nuclear scientists, so I don't see the problem. Disease-related deaths surged after 3/11. Hearts can't pump enough blood around the body. Cesium-137, not slow acting, immediately damages the heart muscles. I wonder would that be a contributor to all the mess of deaths we're seeing worldwide of myocarditis and heart attacks and everything else? Stanford publication from the Hoover Institute, Hoover Digest, on the cesium road, on the rocky road to Dublin, on the rocky cesium road to Dublin, on the burp burp. Were TV experts paid to say Fukushima Daiichi had a small leak when it was the largest in the world? Sure, that's outrageous to say that was the largest in the world. You got no proof of that. Maybe a little bit, but International Atomic Energy Agency said public trust is key to projects using radioactive soil from Fukushima. This is a great story from last year. You got 30 million one-ton bags, so they're cutting up millions of them and dumping them on the ground, and then they're growing food in it as an experiment. And if they say it's safe, then they're going to sell the food. If they and now they're growing it in a town that's still abandoned. I can't see what could go wrong. The International Atomic Energy is not a regulator and not in a position to judge or approve Japan's soil recycling project. But this is one-ton bags. They picked up 30 million of them because of radiation. And the International Atomic Energy Agency is not in a position to judge or approve their recycling program with nuclear fallout. So I had never heard of nuclear fallout being recycled. How do you recycle nuclear fallout? Well, you grow food in it, Dana, and you give it to people that are complaining. Then they get cancer and they're not complaining about nuclear. They're too busy complaining they can't get a doctor. And that don't last forever. Extreme increase in mortality caused by heart diseases. The death rates might give the creeps to some people. The number of deaths was up 12.5%, 12,695 people compared to the same month of the year before, in 2011. In a single month, there was an extra 12,700 people died of heart attacks. The number of deaths caused by tumors was up an extra 2,066 people. And the number caused by cardiac disease was up 14.6%. So the nuclear industry is more important than, tens of thousands of people. Come on, let's be reasonable. Without nuclear, everything wouldn't be poison, right? 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes. Well, that's normal now. I know it wasn't normal before Fukushima, but it's normal now, so what's the big deal, right? It's normal. And the head of Tokyo Area Medical Clinic said, we're expecting diabetes in children from Fukushima radiation. Oh, yeah. Pregnant women used for decontamination activities after Fukushima disaster. Proper thing. Well, like if they have a successful baby, that's another mouth Japan's got to feed. So put them to work, their parents, when they're pregnant, to work in a nuclear wasteland, and you probably don't got to worry about it. Right? Bill Gates says there's too many people on the planet, we got to get rid of them. What do you want? 10 million atoms a kilogram of cesium detected in Minima Soma soil sample. 10 million atoms. Now, don't be judgmental. It's a kilogram. So if you multiply with 66.6, You get a square meter. So if you don't like it, just move out of there. A real mystery, black substance not yet measured, possibly 20 million atoms a kilogram of cesium. Like, my understanding of it is you're not supposed to live in a place like this. If they're stupid enough to listen to the nuclear industry, I'm not going to say it's their own fault, but nuclear industry got to make a living too. The apologists for nuclear industry, let's face it, they got to make a living. That's how they make it, by tricking you to living in a nuclear wasteland. It's a legitimate job. Alice in Wonderland was used to convince the children in Japan nuclear power is safe. I think they've done that in Canada too, in the United States, didn't they? It's pretty strange, but that's the nuclear industry, okay? Red Cross team said, we were told by headquarters not to provide medical care for those exposed to radiation after Fukushima. We were told by headquarters, at the Red Cross headquarters, not to provide medical care for anybody exposed to radiation because they're anti-nuclear, right? That's a crime worldwide right now. Oh my goodness, it's still nice and warm. Just thank goodness, because it's so works so well for cutting the grime in your throat when you're talking. Nursery school children on a contaminated playground equipment. The radiation is in the holes. Some kids with no dosimeters. You can't read them, right? They send them away to the universities so nuclear students can understand being evil is normal. Masks are not covering the noses. Like, shouldn't you evacuate them out of there? Why would you leave them there in a nuclear wasteland? Oh, that's right. The nuclear industry is more important than kids. It's the only industry I see where they really attack the kids and water in particular. Children swim at water is your most important thing on this entire planet is water. I can't possibly stress it enough how important it is to fight with every inch of your life for the water that is on this planet. Children swim at Fukushima Beach as the ocean opened for the first time since 3/11. So this wasn't last year or the year before or something. This was 2012. This was the next year. Oh, yeah, all right. Can kids go to the beach? Yes, of course they can. Hey, get the media down here. Kids are playing on the beach. Nuclear wasteland. This is great. Fukushima Daiichi Alps treated water discharge. Will the findings of the International Atomic Energy Agency be legally binding? This is the International Atomic Energy Agency site, by the way. Talking about the Alps, which, of course, is nonsense. Treated water. Will the finding of the International Atomic Energy Agency review be legally binding to the Japanese authorities? Yeah, no. And the results and the conclusion of the International Atomic Energy Agency's reviews are not legally binding. They didn't find any problems. Now, they're scientists, they're engineers, they're academics. So if they say this is not real, how are you going to argue with them? They're the International Atomic Energy Agency. The results and conclusions of the International Atomic Energy reviews are not legally binding. And generally, the International Atomic Energy Agency safety standards are not legally binding for member states. They're binding for everybody else, right? But for member states, oh, you don't want to dump it in the ocean. What do you call me for? Dump it in the ocean, dog. If it's not corrupt, it's not real. You know it's real because when you see the corrupt, just 0.8% of the children 2001 Japanese control group had thyroid tumors. 36% now in Fukushima study. So it's 13,646 do, and at 38,000. It used to be 1 to 2 per million. Now it's, holy shit. It's all just a coincidence. Radiology expert fine up to 45 microsieverts an hour near a school zone, which is 90 times higher than Chernobyl. 45 microsieverts is 90 times higher than the Chernobyl evacuation threshold. It's hard to imagine something more frightening than 5-year-olds marching off to irradiated school playgrounds with Geiger counters strapped to their chest. There was over 90,000 children and pregnant women were given dosimeters that they can't read, and then they're sent to the university students in Canada, United States, United Kingdom to study the little radiated guinea pigs. Kids. I love this picture. So the yellow zone is where people were allowed to move back to last year. The red zone is the no-go zone. Now, yeah, some of these places are right in the middle of a no-go zone, and you're not allowed to stop the car going there, and you got to run right straight into your house, and you can't leave your house. But you're allowed to go back to these places because it makes the nuclear industry look pretty good. I can never wrap my mind around this picture because it's a nuclear wasteland on a whole different scale. And then they open up these little sections and says that it's safe to go to those sections. I don't think it is, personally. 230,000 atoms per square meter of cesium on the athletic field. They didn't do plutonium or curium or americium or neptunium or strontium or anything. 6 times as high as the limits set for radiation control zones. Oh, it's higher than that. Government answer to protecting children from Fukushima with radioactive fallout: wear long-sleeved shirts while at school. Well, 185, not 185,000, but 185 is in evacuation zones and nuclear plants. But for civilians, you'll be okay. So wearing long-sleeve shirts while at school doesn't protect you, by the way. You need to get out of that prefecture, not just the school, but the prefecture. And you're going to be contaminated because you were there in the first place. So they got 105,000 sites in 2019. 105,000 sites where they stored 1-ton bags of radiation. So there's 105,000 pictures missing if you only use that one. But in 2016, it was 30 million 1-ton bags. Yeah, it's a lot of bags. I get that, but now they're growing food in it. Because science doesn't fit this equation ever. So you got this story in 2016 is another story. 30 million tons of radioactive waste will eventually need to be moved, and what they're talking about, these 1-ton bags, they deteriorate after 3 years. Meaning you got to repackage the waste regularly. So how many people does it take to repackage a 1-ton bag? How long does it take? Because you're not going to do it like you open a bottle of pop or something. It's a whole coordinated. You got cranes and tractors, and there's just you got a bunch of homeless people, yeah. 6 million atoms a kilogram in black substance. 6 million becquerels a kilogram. These are just. Let me give you a comprehension of it for a second. What was the number? 6 million. 6 million atoms a kilogram. So we got 6. I'm going to multiply that by 66.6 to get a square meter. That's 399 million atoms per square meter. That is incredible numbers, right? Kyoto nuclear professor, there is no longer any such thing as clean and safe food after radiation from Fukushima spread around the entire planet of Earth. Which, okay, well, like you say he's fear-mongering, but he's probably right, unfortunately, and I hate to admit it, but he told the truth. So originally there was, like, I'm showing you a lot of evidence. Originally there was a lot of people, academics and scientists, that did come out and warn you. They got replaced or silenced or threatened or defunded. But like the evidence you see tonight so far is the evidence that is incontestable. It's unassailable evidence. And this is a model of Neptunium-239 based on 20 days to your left. But it's based on a flawed number. It's not based on the actual nuclear meltdowns, the loss of the inventories. Right? It's not based on the real inventory. It's not based on the fuel pools that are missing, for instance. It's not based on the meltdowns, for starters. The very foundation of everything. 80% of the residents tested have radioactive iodine in their thyroids, up to 87 millisieverts. So 60 microsieverts a year was considered a very 90 times Chernobyl. That's 87,000 microsieverts. A millisievert is 1,000 microsieverts. And when you say some residents face potential health risk, it's every insect, every bird, every worm, everything is guaranteed. Controversy after U.S. government estimated showed 40,000, which is 40 millisieverts, 40,000 microsievert thyroid doses for California infants after Fukushima. Data not released to the public. It's a very high dose. And earlier I showed you different headlines about children dying from Fukushima radioactive fallout, right? Tokyo official blasts parents who want kids to avoid ingesting radioactivity at school. It's important to share the pain. Eat your school lunch, your radioactive food, to share the pain. So how do you win against a culture that is that complacent, really? It's not like you're playing a game of cards or something, right? There's repercussions. Mother, school had children clean up highly contaminated area and relocate the dirt. That's only because they ran out of homeless for a couple of months, right? Yeah, they couldn't tell the parent. Why would you tell the parent? Oh, I took your kids into a nuclear wasteland, made them clean up highly contaminated area. That's not going to go over very good. The children are the sacrifices. A minima summa official, which is like Joe Biden and Trump the other night. It's a train wreck, right? The businesses forced the mayors to keep the children here 25 kilometers from Fukushima Daiichi. 25 kilometers from ongoing multiple nuclear meltdowns. That's some heartless shit right there, man. And minima summa, the radiation, have we ever seen a single headline? We have, I don't know how many, at least probably 100. Have we ever seen a single headline where it was reasonable? Not that there's any reasonable, but what I mean by it is that every headline is insane. Like me, I'm insane. Hospital doctor says patients suffering high-level radiation exposure from Fukushima. You got sick and died because you trusted nuclear. Complaints, and that's what the world would be. Like, I was trying to create a t-shirt the other day, and it was going to be if it wasn't for nuclear, cowards wouldn't have anywhere to go to work. And I went and tried to create the shirt, and it wouldn't let me even on the page. So I dug up a bunch of other sites, and I got them in my bookmark, but I was trying for quite a while, and I didn't get it done, but that don't mean I'm going to be giving up. Complains the media not reporting their findings that the hospital says patients are suffering high-level radiation exposures from Fukushima. And that's via the Japan Times, who now says nothing got out, of course. Japanese medical experts are deeply concerned about Fukushima radiation exposures. 51% of the kids contaminated with cesium-137 at Fukushima Hospital. And some had very high level gamma rays, because that's all they can look at with the Geiger counters. But if you got high level gamma, you got high level alpha, betas, neutrons too. You can't have one without 1,000 other ones. So 50 atoms a kilogram, which is impossible to perceive, in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. So if you've got irreversible lesions in your vital organs, your body is your immune system is compromised, right? And so you're going to be more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign, yes? Japan blog author claimed the medical workers, and we got a lot of evidence to support this, my goodness, said malformed babies are being declared as stillbirths or miscarriages. And if they die within the first 6 hours, they're not counted as a human or a death. No, the first 24 hours, right? Because that's where they give them all, in the arms, right? And if they die within the first 24 hours, they're not counted as a human. They're not counted as a statistic of the country or the hospitals or the communities. I'm pretty sure the family does, but the hospitals, the whole system is so corrupted by the nuclear industry. And you have to continue, right, that they've infiltrated every facet of humanity. And it's literally the atomic plague in many different ways. Nowhere is safe. Cesium levels in Yokohama mushrooms. Like, if you're trying to make me eat a mushroom, I'd claw your eyes out trying to get away from you. I'm so scared of them. Reached almost 3,000 atoms a kilogram. Already eaten by hundreds of the victims, children under 12. 250 kilometers from the nightmare. High radioactivity found all around the school. 30 kilometers from the nuclear meltdowns that, by the way, are going to be, you'll be able to call them ongoing nuclear meltdowns in 1,000 years. That's not cool. Over a dozen hot spots detected near face level. It's just frightening. 120,000 becquerels a kilogram of cesium in the soil near the entrance. 120,000. Multiple millions per square meter. Cesium, because, only cesium exists. Clearly, uranium, plutonium doesn't exist. The biggest byproduct, by the way, is the curium isotopes. And they need lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium. Hot ones do. 276,000 atoms a kilogram of radioactive cesium from soil samples near Tokyo, which works out to 18 million atoms a kilogram. Sheesh. That's got to suck living in that place. These are confirmed nuclear wastelands, right? These are like 4 microsieverts of anthropogenic man-made radiation per hour at a primary school in Tokyo. In Tokyo. These are catastrophic numbers because it's airborne, right? High levels of radioactive material concentrating in Tokyo. 50 times more than the government found, 2.71 microsieverts per hour on the sidewalk. Well, we've seen 87,000 microsieverts in the human bodies and already tonight. 12,000, but it should be counted, because it shouldn't be counted in microsieverts, it should be counted in physical atoms like becquerels. 12,400 atoms, physical atoms, a kilogram of radioactive cesium next to a swimming pool for children. The radiation measurements nearly doubled over the recent 5-day period. Kawasaki City, 2011. In Japan, researchers, the problem is here to stay. And each rain brings cesium, uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium, into the neighborhoods, in your neighborhood. 800,000 pounds of radioactive ash piled up at a garbage incinerator plant 100 kilometers from the nuclear meltdowns. They're projected to run out of protective storage space in 2 weeks, after which the radioactive ash, so like the ash is only going to retain 5-10% on the best days of the radiation that was in their big dirty bomb machine. They call it an incinerator. That's a dirty bomb, right? Because you can't destroy radiation by burning it in an incinerator, so it's a dirty bomb, right? Does that make sense? You're releasing radiation perpetually into the community. That's a pretty nasty industry. That's not a very friendly industry doing that, I don't think. Increased numbers of horrified parents in Tokyo. You know, they didn't let the children outdoors for the first 2 years typically. But Tokyo's a long way away. As young children enjoy radioactive autumn outdoors, accused of being monster parents if they're concerned. Kindergarten. Strontium-90, 245 kilometers from the meltdowns. 150 times background, which is insane numbers we're talking about, of strontium bone seekers, skeleton seeker. Cesium at triple the government limits in the radioactive compost made by elementary school children using radioactive fallen leaves. Above limit cesium, above limit. There is no safe limit, my goodness. In 2011, they had called a safe limit 500 atoms a kilogram. They're only looking at cesium, they said, because nothing else exists, right? Nursery school was taking field trips so the kid can play in areas with less radioactivity. You can't escape it, but it has less than their nuclear wasteland school and community. Which shocks me, and it breaks my heart whenever I see it. They won't let the people escape. They insist that it's safe when it's clearly not. But you see this uniformly throughout the nuclear industry. It's very, very concerning. Wall Street Journal officials sharply raised the radiation levels for the residents to get the iodine pills after the meltdown, and 75 times higher than the World Health Organization recommended for children. Japan failed to hand out radiation pills. And Geraldine Thomas is always out there claiming that the Japanese done the right thing and gave out the iodine pills. Well, the radiation, like cesium, will still go in your thyroid. The iodine pill is not going to protect it from cesium, for instance, a gamma. But when you raise the radiation limits for the children 75 times higher than the nut job World Health Organization already recommends, you stop being a human, don't you? I don't know, it's just me, maybe. I care. 75% of Fukushima, 300,000 children going to school so contaminated, they would be radiation control areas in nuclear plants. Save the children. Hashtag. Top cancer doctor, nuclear radiation is the most carcinogenic thing that exists. You should tell it to the nuclear industry sometime. Nursery school, Geiger counter nearly off the scale near the play equipment. Topsoil has already been replaced. Topsoil has already been replaced. Oh, so you replaced the topsoil. Big shot. But like, if you're going to replace the topsoil at the school because of radiation, you can't open that school up. And so a lot of this came out of the folder I have there called Heartless. Because when I was gathering up this stuff, I was saying to myself, you got to be pretty heartless to do it. And That was kind of the theme for hours when I was putting it together. That's pretty heartless to do that to people. But, all these years I'm still not desensitized, right? Which I think is incredible, really. How do you get desensitized to this kind of nightmare, right? School playground staircase has radiation at 70 times the maximum allowed, far, far, far from the evacuation zone, equal to 69,000 microsieverts a year. 69,000 microsieverts a year. I never dreamt I would see something like this in anybody's lifetime. Radioactive iodine in 50% of the children's thyroid, up to 35,000 microsieverts. 50%. When you scale it up to 1 million, that's 500,000. 35,000 microsieverts are just, these are unconscionable numbers. The nuclear industry should be sacrificed, take their thyroids and donate them to the victims, right? Like they do with the beagle dogs and beagle puppies, where they sacrifice them so they can cut them open and see what the radiation damage looks like. 50,000 atoms a kilogram radioactive cesium found in soil near Tokyo. And it's terrifying. The samples were from the side of the street where children walk every day. Yeah, that's nuclear. It's normal. It is, yes, it's terrifying. I'm not saying it's not terrifying, but get over it, man. It's normal. This nuclear industry, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about children. They don't care about anything. It's just the way it is. 3 million atoms a kilogram or a square meter. On the side of the road with children walking by, breathing the air. It's normal. And if you don't like it, nuclear industry will come after you and destroy you. Parts of school playgrounds cleared off limit at 0.25 microsieverts. But 35,000 microsieverts is have a nice day. Dead kid and tells no tale, I suppose. Detected 200 kilometers southeast of Fukushima. Children and staff must wear hats and gargle regularly. Now, I don't know fancy big shot nuclear scientist or nothing, but I don't think gargling and wearing hats is going to help you at all. Well, actually, I'm sure of it. City of 290,000 people, 60 kilometers from Fukushima. That's Fukushima City, right? Extreme high radiation, along with cobalt-60. TEPCO paid for the creation of a blacklist of actors and musicians who are against the nuclear industry, against them killing people. They're against them radiating millions of people with no repercussions. What an interesting statement. Paid for the creation of a blacklist of anybody so they can be singled out and attacked for having a different opinion in a democracy, right? Japan's safety standards and radiation levels for children are unconscionable. Well, it's not if you're looking at the nuclear industry every day. It's normal. It's not unconscionable at all. This is how they work. They don't care. 30 million permanently affected by Fukushima. Number of people exposed triples Chernobyl. Like, how can you invoke Chernobyl into this conversation? Chernobyl was brutal. Go look at my anniversary video. Just this year alone. 400 studies in that or something. But Chernobyl is like a paper towel compared to Fukushima. To say that triple Chernobyl is completely dishonest, unless you're saying everybody on the planet. Japan professor, 14,000 square kilometers heavily contaminated. That's being pretty polite, actually. Millions, including kids and infants, are exposed every day after being abandoned by the government. It's very bizarre. Well, not really. It's nuclear. That's what they do. They're experts at abandoning you and the 8 million species. They're professionals, right? Radioactive rain caused 130 schools in Korea to close. 130 schools in South Korea, which now denies there's any radioactive fallout, were closed. Ah, yes, CNN. They lied to us. The radiation releases are comparable to Chernobyl. The total core meltdown in 3 reactors. The worst industrial catastrophe in the world. That's CNN. That's CNN. You're like, no. I'll show you somebody else from CNN in a second. CNN nuclear expert. Fukushima plant is in uncharted territory. And the highly radioactive water is going to be boiled until it evaporates or dumped into the ocean. But you can't, boiling it is not going to destroy the radiation. And dumping it in the ocean and boiling it into the air, that's not a solution in any textbook out there, period. It's called terrorism, right? These are dirty bombs by the kilogram. Let me see. This is CNN right here. This is a little short video. They're all pretending that they're in the fuel pool 130 feet above the stump to your left.
Where I was standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
She currently is in the press club at the White House. That's CNN right there. They wouldn't cut your throat. I want to see some more that'll cut your throat. Who are Jack Tapper and Dana Bash, the Jewish moderators of the Biden-Trump debate? A little bit surprised that the only 2 people allowed into the debate were both Jewish. And they got a pretty colorful checkered history, don't they, these 2? I'll show you some of that coming up.
On the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, crimes against humanity, of extermination, and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as pursuant to a state policy.
I'm surprised you didn't bring that up. To tell you the truth. They were both infused with their Jewish identity into their reporting. In fact, Bash and Tapper are congregates at the same Washington synagogue. Synagogue, is it? Here's what you need to know about the 2 Jewish anchors helming the first of 2 U.S. presidential debates in 2024. Bash was married to John King, another CNN anchor, and she was previously married to Jeremy Bash, an attorney who worked in the Obama administration. Wow, that's quite a coincidence. And that Jake Tapper graduated from the Jewish day school and Akiba Hebrew Academy in Philadelphia. And a breakout moment in this development as a journalist came in 1998 when he wrote about having gone on a date with Monica Lewinsky. Just before the news broke, she was involved in an affair with former U.S. President Bill Clinton. So he dated Monica Lewinsky at the same time as Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was double timing her behind Jake's back. That's pretty interesting. He said, my mom would love her. Her dad too, she's Jewish. I was really interested in that though. They were the only two people in the U.S. presidential debate. And they were the only ones allowed to ask any questions. And Joe was a train wreck. Joe Biden, that was a train wreck, wasn't it? So I heard they're going to replace him anyway. But like I listened to the debate and I don't know what to make of it, right? You know what he said? Does anybody out there have a bumper sticker that says, I heart Joe Biden? Anybody? No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. In America, like, can you imagine Joe Biden with his finger on the nuclear trigger suffering full-blown dementia? He's hopped up on barbiturates and amphetamines in order to be able to... Like, the evidence for it is just... I got so much is... What? How is this? So who the hell is running the country? Joe ain't running no country. And he's supposed to be running NATO, right? He's supposed to, like, the American president is typically running NATO, which is 30 militaries. It shouldn't exist. Should have been disbanded immediately as the Soviet Union dissolved and all their pensions and patents were dissolved. So quite confused by it. And these people are not accountable. They got nuclear weapons. They got aircraft carriers at their beck and call. I'm very concerned. So it took us an hour. Let me see. How long did it take us to get to the show? It took an hour and a half to get to the show. Dana, my goodness. What happens sometimes? Sometimes I get carried away, right? Sometimes I get carried away. Let's do something different here for a few minutes. This was the weekend. I'm busted up, by the way. I've been busted up for days now. I'm doing better tonight a little bit. I'm hoping tomorrow will be a good day for me. I'm busted up. So this was Friday, I think, or Saturday. Yeah, I think this was Friday. Friday, I realized I was going to have to fix, because remember when that axle was 3 inches wider than the original axle. And I got that one brand new for $300, 3,500 pound axle. But the right one would have cost me around $800. So I went with that one. So I had to make some adjustments, right? We had to buy another shackled kit. Normally you have a front shackle and then the back is pinned up, right? And then that gives you some flexibility on bumps and that. Also for the springs, right? So I put 2 sets of shackles on it and I welded them, one set, so they couldn't move. But not until I made a boo-boo and it settled down. So what I ended up having to do was the weekend. What I had to do the weekend was, sorry. My apologies. That's some of the stuff I look at out with the drone, for instance, right? I thought that was at the end of it tonight. My apologies. So this is where I'm looking for birds with the drones. Where I'm.
It's Monday, July the 1st.
I'll get there. Here we go. Okay, so you can see the tarp is gone off the deck and the E-tractor gone off the deck, right? That was Saturday or Friday. I can't remember. I haven't stopped all weekend. So yeah, the tarp is gone also. So we stripped the deck all the way down, tore everything off the deck. So I can move this towards the back 3 more inches. so that they would be centered right over the axle, right, like this. And it was a lot more work than you think it is. But we got it, so it's all good. Just it was raining most of the time. Now today we've got so far around 75 millimeters today. And we could get another 50 millimeters tonight by the looks of it. It could be up to 125 millimeters in 24 hours. But at some point, not this year, but next year, I got to pull all the wood up and put new wood there. Because a lot of the wood is pretty suspect, right? But the steel frame is excellent. It's just when you get all the salt gather up there in the winter and you don't flush it out in the spring, it slowly just eats away at everything. But it's okay. We've redone everything, right? It's a lot of work. There's a lot of work went into that trailer. There's no harm showing you. I have to be really careful. That wood is super soft. Some of it's okay. And so I'm using 3-inch screws to get deep enough to get hold of decent wood. So I got both sides centered up. And so these new knee pads, I've worn them all day today. I wore them all day yesterday. Some Sunday. Sunday I was out looking for birds and insects rather. But in the morning I was using them. Saturday, all day Saturday. And they stand up really well, eh? And they support your upper knees, or your knee. Your knee doesn't pivot. You don't go off center, right? With these things. Let me see if I get a better picture. Because they actually got a good joint at your knee, so they strap above your knee onto your thigh. And it's a really good system anyway. So that was Saturday night. Just before dark, I finally got everything put back together. And Sunday, this was a picture Sunday. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to, unfortunately. Well, let's try it anyway. We got it here. Just give me 1 second. What did I do there? That one's there, that one's there. I screwed up something. I don't know what I got done. Yeah. And so these pictures I took Saturday, I noticed there was a bunch of people fishing. And it's not a very good picture, unfortunately. I apologize for that. I'll do better next time. But what was missing, you had all these people fishing. It was like a fishing derby just before Canada, because it's Canada Day yesterday, right? So it was a fishing derby, basically, some kind down there on Sunday. And I couldn't see any birds. And they were there. I was into the city, and on the way back, they were still there. So I went up this side road, which was really short, trying to get a look at what was going on. I wasn't sure if it was whales or, or there was whatever. So I wanted to see the beach. The only way to see it was go up that road there and get a shot that direction. Because it was packed on the road down there. And there was no birds. And all these people with their fishing rods in the water and all this activity. There's actually a lot of people up high. You can't really see it in this picture. But there was no birds. How can you have a fishing derby for hours and hours and hours and not have any birds? There was no birds in the water. And there wasn't even seagulls. There wasn't even seagulls. And I'm surprised that picture didn't come out better. I apologize for that. But yeah, there was nothing there. And this is in Holyrood, R-O-O-D. But that was really frightening to me, that there was nothing there. That was insane. That was insane. And so, when is America going to take back their elections from CNN? CNN put 2 Jewish commentators there because I don't know why. It doesn't represent the country. And, a presidential debate, first off, even having CNN there in the first place should be a crime, right? But that train wreck, or whatever you want to call it, that disaster that they had there, I mean, that was really something. That's the poll tonight was asking that question. Was the U.S. presidential Biden and Trump with the Jewish moderators, Joe Trapper and Dana Bash, a scary nightmare? I thought it was the strangest, but not thought, I know, this was the strangest thing I've ever seen. No audiences, nobody else with any input, but yet these are the people on the stage that are making decisions affecting over 300 million people. And so how could the country as powerful as the United States be so controlled that it ended up in the first debate in that, let's call it a circus, just because that's what it was, right? That was a circus. It was an incredible circus. And this was a circus right here tonight, right? We were a circus here tonight. Ooh. Have a great night, everybody. I guess that's it for Dana. Operation Paper Suit. James. That was such a great t-shirt, eh? And James donated $200 the weekend. No, Monday, was it? Or something? Bless your heart. My friend. So I've been really sick the last couple of days. And that doesn't stop me, of course. And like we've just torrential downpour all day today, all night tonight. I'm hoping for a decent day tomorrow. But holy goodness. The ground is so dry because we killed the bacteria and the fungus. It doesn't soak up water anymore, right? Because of the radioactive fallout, it killed all the biota, and it doesn't break down the forest, the foliage and the litter in the forest. But that was incredible. No birds at a fishing derby. That doesn't scare you to death. Come back tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure I can top that one. Good night, everybody. Thanks for everybody. Have a great night, great day tomorrow. I know I'm ducking out early. I wasn't expecting to get a whole hour in the night. That's how bad I felt. I will be back tomorrow night, though. No matter how shitty I feel, I'll be back tomorrow night. And we'll pick up tomorrow night where... so all those headlines under the video, we're going to cover that tomorrow night. This was the preamble tonight. And it's totally normal for me to take an hour and a half to do the preambles. That is not unusual. Click something or what? Hang on here. Hi, Dana Nasana. Hey, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow night, folks. I'm a little bit off my game tonight, and so the title of my video is permanent. This is a nuclear comedy show, because that's what it is. It's irony comedy, right? But it is a 100% comedy show. There's lots of laughter tonight. You tell the show there's lots of laughter tonight. Everybody has their laughs. Don't lie to me. You have laughs tonight. My humor was driving, right? Already long night. We bring on the pain for the nuclear industry. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody on the next show. Have a great night. A great day tomorrow, all. Take care, folks.